So this year there seems to be an explosion of many different brands that are offering these gouache paints in jelly cups. This is just one of them. It's from Magic Fly. It's a 24 color set. It's actually quite a nice set. I like it. I do have 3 or 4 others. I will say that almost all of the brands are very similar, if not almost identical, at least those that are coming in these jelly cups. And I decided to try these because I do like gouache, normal gouache coming in tubes. And I thought, well, we would give these a try. And I wasn't disappointed. But what I'd like to do is give a couple of tips that I found when I'm working with them that helps the paint to stay moist longer and nicer inside of the palette itself. This palette, I've already pre-loosened this in anticipation of doing this video, but normally these snap down very tight, and the palette does have a gasket in it and this piece of foam that helps to, keep it tighter and help keep the paints moist longer. That said, when I first started using these, I was just, following the directions and resealing it, and the paints were getting a little bit drier. So I was looking at the instructions that came with it. And if you look here, they talk a lot about activating the dried gouache with glycerin and water. It also talks about they have extra glycerin in the cups to keep them moist and creamy in transport. So I thought to myself, I have glycerin. I actually use a food grade and pharmaceutical grade, so I know it's a really good one. And what I started to do was, when I go to get ready to paint, I get a small jar. This is just a yogurt cup, I think from Wee Yogurt. I get a small jar, I get a syringe, and what I do is I mix about, I'd say, a tablespoon of glycerin in here, and then water up about to the halfway point. Mix it up really nicely. And then as I'm working with the paints, I actually use that glycerin water mix to put on top of the jelly cups, the open jelly cups, and that helps keep them moist. And it also, as you can see, this palette has been closed for about a week. And if you look now, I do have the oversheet on here, but if you take a look here, you can see that all of the paints are just as creamy and vibrant and just very nice to work with as they were when I first opened the set. So that's the one tip that I have for working with the jelly gouache. Now the other thing that I do, and I'll show you here how tight that does snap on. It's really a nice seal on this palette. Most of the palettes of the jelly cups I have seal fairly well, but this Magic Fly is exceptionally good. So the other tip that I have, and this is Magic Fly gouache, that I took some colors out and put them into a porcelain palette, and I let them dry because I wanted to see, just what would happen when they dry out. They do crack a lot more than your standard watercolors do, but I found that I was able to easily rehydrate them if I use that same mixture of glycerin, about a tablespoon of glycerin in a small cup, and water about halfway. If I used that when I was re-wetting, and you can see here, hopefully, the camera will show it, this little bit right here is some that I had re-wetted from this pink in that same way, and you can see it's actually a little bit glossier and shinier there, but I did find that it allowed the paint to re-wet much more easily if there's a little bit of glycerin in the water. So I'm sure that there's a lot of folks out there may have already known that tip, but since it's something that I just came across myself, I just want to make sure that I did a real quick video on it and let you know a little bit of glycerin and water is your friend when you are working with these Jelly Cup Gouache sets.